yesterday, or actually really early, yesterday and early this morning, I had made up a bunch of little videos of some of my recent videos and podcasts, and I uploaded them to Twitter. I actually made I think it was 7 little videos and they were basically from some of the podcast videos that I had made recently, and I uploaded them to Twitter. I don't usually use Twitter, but I felt like it was time to start getting the word out there a little bit more. Because I basically the only places where I publish my content is basically on Spotify and on the on a podcast, and also on YouTube. And I wanted to make some little videos and put them on on Twitter. Now, when you put a video on Twitter, you can it's only up to 2 minutes and 20 seconds. So, like, I took that one video I did recently in a turkey UFO video, and I believe I split it up into 4 little separate videos, and I uploaded them to Twitter. And then I took my recent podcast and I split that up into 3 different videos, and I uploaded that to Twitter, and I had different titles for them and everything like that. And I usually don't use Twitter I go on there and I need to see, I go on there to see what people are saying. I usually go there for information, but for the most part I really don't do anything on there. But yesterday I felt like maybe I need to start doing more on Twitter as well. So that's what I did, and I did this, and I had a lot of responses, a lot of likes. I had a lot of views. I actually had, on one of the videos, it looks like I have 5,000 views, and I got some responses, not a lot of responses, but a lot of responses, some likes, and I got like this one video here has 42 likes, and that was pretty good. 16 retweets, that was pretty good. And the name of this one video I was talking about the Ukraine UFOs, and the title of this little video that I put on Twitter was called "New Data Proves Ukraine UFOs Are Alien Craft. Debunkers Look Like Fools Now." Well, anyway, I got some responses from that, and I actually received some responses from a person that goes by the handle of CPE1704TKS at Jasper Comp. Okay, now this person claims to be has a PhD in astrophysics, MIT and Caltech. I don't think I believe this guy. I'd have to see it, because based on some of the things that he was tweeting toward me, I don't believe it. Right, and then he has his slogan on his site. It says, he has a quote here saying, "It's not hate speech. It's just speech you hate." Well, I hope you keep that in mind, Jasper, for what I'm about to say. It's not hate speech. It's just going to be the speech that I use that you're going to hate. All right. Anyway, here's what he said. Here's what his response was to that, to my video, my podcast video about the new data proves Ukraine UFOs are alien craft. He wrote on Twitter, he tweeted to me, "This is what happens when you legalize drugs. These people need professional psychological assistance." So basically, as you can see, this guy thinks that basically people who believe like I believe, I must be on drugs. This is what happens when you legalize drugs, he says. Now, just to make it clear here, I live in Pennsylvania, and in Pennsylvania, drugs aren't legalized. Now, there is medical pot, but there's nothing, there's no recreational stuff, and I don't have any medical issues, and I don't have that, so I don't know where you're getting that from. That's not true. And I don't need professional psychological assistance. However, I believe that you might. Anyway, I responded to him. I said, this is what my response was to him. I said, "Actually, people like you are going to need anxiety drugs pretty soon as the reality of the alien presence becomes clearer. Unfortunately, they don't make a pill that treats stupidity, which would prove a tremendous help for a lot of folks still trapped in denial." And then he wrote back, "Nah, people like me are more rational than you who see ghosts, Bigfoot, and aliens and everything you see. If they land, then cool, we'll deal with that. Until that time, we aren't going to see every light in the sky and say, 'They're here, the reptilians are going to probe me.'" Okay, now let's just go. Well, I'll read my response, and then we're going to go back to what he said. We're going to go through each thing that he said there, sentence by sentence. And I wrote back to him, "Irrational, moronic debunkers drunk on Mick West's bathwater have one weapon, character assassination. But we can all see through the bile you vomit. Case in point, the above tweet. It's filled with tropes and weak attempts at stigmatization. Better luck next time. Okay, now, so let's go through what he was saying in that previous tweet here. He says, nah, people like me are more rational than you who see ghosts, Bigfoot, and aliens in everything you see. That's not true. In fact, I mean, if you were to, most people who have researched this realize and understand that most sightings could be explained, right? Most UFO sightings, right, have a conventional explanation. Right now, of course, there are some people out there that everything they see, they'll look up and say, "Oh, that must be a UFO," right? But no, most people aren't like that. There are some, of course, but most people aren't like that, right? As far as ghosts, I don't really know about ghosts. Now, I have done, I had an interest in some ghost videos, ghost images, pictures, these old pictures, and I did some videos on them one time. But I really don't know if ghosts are real or not. I never really came to any kind of conclusion on that one way or the other. As for Bigfoot, yes, there is a lot of proof that Bigfoot actually exists. So yeah, I do. I don't. But here's the thing: I don't see Bigfoot and aliens and everything, right? Like, you know, everywhere I look, I don't say, "Oh, there's Bigfoot." Or, "Oh, I've never seen a Bigfoot." I met somebody who did say he saw Bigfoot, and the guy was very believable. And of course, I believe that the Patterson-Gimlin footage is real. And there are some other cases that were very credible too, where there were multiple witnesses that I think are very credible. Unfortunately, what you're saying here, that's not true. I don't see ghosts, Bigfoot, and aliens and everything, right? And I don't think a lot of people, the kind of people who listen to my kind of podcast, I don't think that they see that kind of stuff either. And then he goes, if they land, then cool. We'll deal with that. Okay, well, guess what? Sorry, you're wrong. Right? Because guess what? They've already landed. They've landed multiple times, thousands of times that we know of, right? There have been thousands of landing cases. In fact, the image that I use on the little logo that I use on my podcast and on my YouTube channel with this, I have a little. It was a picture that was taken in France in the early 1970s, and it was of a landed craft. And there was a guy, I mean, of course, now, Mick West, here's the problem for you, buddy. Of course, you never did any research on this. Because if you did, or if, you know, this is the problem. Mick West isn't going to tell you this stuff, right? So obviously you don't know this because Mick West never told you, and I don't know. I'm not even sure if you even read any books. I mean, that's why I have a problem believing you had this pedigree that you PhD in astrophysics, MIT and Caltech. I don't believe that. I don't think you don't sound like a person who's read any books to me. So that's why I have to see that. As far as you're concerned, I have to see that proof myself. You know. You'd have to show that to me, and I'd have to have somebody there, like a lawyer there, to confirm it for me too at the same time. Because I don't think you've read any books. If you've done any research, you would know that there's landing cases. There have been landing cases all reported for decades, right? There was a guy from Missouri named Ted Phillips who investigated these things, landings. That's what his specialty was. That's all he concentrated on was landings. He would take soil samples from where these things crashed. A lot of these cases were very credible cases with multiple witnesses. There were imprints in the ground that would be found a lot of times, either in a triangular shape or in a rectangular shape, like as you know, from landing legs. And there would be footprints small footprints of the beings, right? He would find that, and there would be changes to the soil, right, from where these things landed compared to the soil right outside from where they landed. The soil would not be able to plant life couldn't grow on it anymore. It couldn't absorb water anymore. It would be so dried out and lifeless that's what would happen to it. But this guy studied thousands of cases. There were thousands of cases across the with not just in the United States but also abroad that he studied, that he looked into and investigated a lot of them, hundreds and hundreds of them personally. And he had amassed a gigantic sampling of soil sample from all over these cases. And again, they all showed the same kind of characteristics: this dried out soil from where these things landed that could actually change the soil. So there are landing cases, obviously. Again, when you're living in a land of make-believe, the debunkers' land of make-believe, they don't tell you these things. They do land, right? And there have been lots of cases of these things landing. So yes, and your comment here is they land, then cool, we'll deal with that. Well, hey, it's time to deal with it because guess what? They land it. Okay. until that time, we aren't going to see every light in the sky and say, they're here, the reptilians are going to probe me. See, the extent of this guy, understand the extent of this guy's information, this guy's knowledge on this entire subject. This guy seems like the most he's done, right? He saw Independence Day back in the 90s, right? And then he listened to Mick West, and that's the extent of his knowledge when it comes to UFOs. This guy has no idea what he's talking about. Right, these are just tropes, and it's nonsense. I mean, it's the same old stuff, the same old, making fun of. Like, remember in that movie Independence Day, there was the Randy Quaid was getting made fun of by all these other guys. I mean, that's the extent of this guy's knowledge on this. He thinks that that's all there is to this. Like, there's reptilians are going to probe me. They're here. The reptilians are going to probe me. That he thinks that everyone's running around saying stuff like that. No, this is a lot bigger than what you realize, chum. A lot bigger. Anyway, and then he responded to my comment, my tweet again, and he goes, coming from a irrational, moronic person who calling me irrational, because he's using the same words I used against him against me, because he couldn't come up with anything else. Mr. MIT. Anyway, coming from an irrational, moronic person who believes in everything and anything and is so gullible, no critical thinking skills, and has no life other than trying to make people think that aliens from the Pleiades are abducting them and probing their orifices, and the U.S. government is hiding it. So basically, he's trying to say that I'm an irrational, that what I told him, I told him he's an irrational, moronic debunker who is drunk on Mick Waters' bathwater, right? And the only weapon that they have is character assassination. That's all they got. Again, he's proving it. He proved it for me here, but we could all see through this is what I wrote there, because we could all see through the bile you vomit. Case in point, and here we go again. He's saying he had to use my words, trying to use my words against me now. Right? He's the one who is irrational. He's the one who's moronic. He's the one who has done no research on this and has no business trying to make fun of people because of reality. I mean, again, this would be like to me, it's like having an argument with a flat earther at this point. Again, it's getting tired. This is ridiculous, right? But again, let's see. He says I have no critical thinking skills and I have no life other than trying to make people think that aliens from the Pleiades are abducting them and probing their orifices, and the United States government is hiding it. So that's what he's saying. So basically, he has to point out that probing their orifices part, because that makes it sound silly and absurd. So he has to throw that in there, right? Right. That's what he has to say. That's what everyone's talking about all the time. People who want disclosure, who want an end to this. That's what he's trying to make it sound that that's what everyone thinks about and talks about all the time. No, that's how they see it, because they're so stupid. This guy's a dummy. He's a dum-dum. Doesn't know what he's talking about. He's just making statements, pulling them out of his orifice. All right, and then anyway, I responded to him one more time here. I said, you're coming apart at the seams. You've just rehashed your previous tweet, reordered the words, and plagiarized some of my words. You need new material. Of course, he couldn't stop there. I let him have the last word, because there's no point in talking to this person anymore. In fact, I'm upset with myself for even bothering. In fact, after I started, I was like, why did I just let it go? But I saw it, I saw the first tweet he gave. I should have realized this guy's nothing but a troll, right? So, and I should have just let it go. But I didn't. And and he kept on responding. Right, so here he goes again. He goes, he wrote, just doing what you whacknuts do, rehash gibberish and hope some sucker falls for it. It's amusing that you actually believe there are aliens running around Earth in itty-bitty orbs, that interdimensional Bigfoots with 5G are transmitting secret info into your skull. I mean, this stuff's all made up. I mean, this is not what people believe. In fact, we were talking about these orbs flying. I mean, when I was talking about these orbs before, we don't know. I don't know if there's anything in them, right? I don't know if there's any. I think they're controlled by aliens. I don't know what they're. I would find it hard to believe that there would actually be a being inside of it, but who knows? I don't know. But I think they're actually being controlled by them. But this, and then the stuff, the interdimensional Bigfoots with 5G. I mean, come on, this guy's just a joke. He's a moron. He's a troll. And this is the kind of people we're dealing with. They can't. Now, could you imagine how this a guy whose brain is designed like this? How this guy's gonna how's he gonna deal with it once the shoe finally drops? He's not gonna deal with it. It's gonna get ugly. I mean, this guy. I mean, my God. I mean, for one thing, he'll probably disappear off the internet completely. I mean, why would you? You probably wouldn't ever show his face. Actually, he doesn't even have. I don't even know what his. Again, there's no real name there. He actually for his picture, it's a picture of Max Headroom. Remember Max Headroom from the '80s? I mean, this guy's just an anonymous idiot, out there floating around the internet who just serves as a troll, right? And so basically, I'll probably end up blocking him if I keep getting comments like this, because I don't want to deal with. I'm not going to deal with somebody like this. I don't need to waste my time dealing with low tier morons. Low tier dum-dums. There's no time for that. There's bigger fish to fry out there. Not these lower tier, like bottom tier dum-dums. I can't deal with bottom tier dum-dums. I just can't. I have no time for that. They're going to be all over the place at all times. I mean, there's, like I said, it's like a cult. Like the people who follow people like Mick West, it's like part of a cult. And this person who I'm talking about here, he's a low tiered dum-dum. I mean, that's what he is. So, and there's no point in having to converse, communicate with something like this. I mean, you're not going to convince anyone like this of anything. So what's the point? But I think the reason I'm pointing this out is just to show you the idiocy that we're looking at here. I mean, there are some dopes out there. I mean, this is unbelievable. I mean, this guy here, he has done no research. I mean, beyond Independence Day, right? Beyond Independence Day, the extent of this guy's research, again, it's sitting there watching Independence Day and then listening to whatever Mick West tweets, or puts out there, and that's it. I mean, that's the extent of his. And so I don't even know, like, why would you? If we're all crazy, right? If we're like this, he also accused me of being high on meth in a different tweet. Right. So if I thought that, right, if I thought a group of people were all high on meth and stoned out of their gourds and all that kind of stuff, right, I wouldn't even bother talking to them. If that's what you really think, right? If you really think that, well, why would you bother talking with them then? If that's what you really think. No, these people are, again, this guy's a low level dum-dum, and again, there's no time for that. There's bigger fish to fry. There's top tier dum-dums we need to get through to. That's the ones that you need to be concerned about. It's the top tier dum-dums out there who try to pretend this isn't real, who try to debunk things all the time. That's the ones that we need to break. They're the ones we need to make see the truth at some point. Hopefully we'll get it really soon here. If we keep getting, a lot of people are saying that 2023 is going to be a big year. Well, I heard 2022 was going to be a big year. It was. But, the big year that I'm looking at, when you're talking big year, right, the kind of big year I want to see is like, end game, disclosure, over. I think we're there. I mean, put it this way. If people would be talking more about what we just got out of Ukraine with that new report, right, if we were talking about that right now, if the mainstream media was like putting a focus on that right now, well, then, it probably would be, maybe that's what we would have disclosure then. Maybe we would be at the end game. But they're pretending it's not happening. But anyway, until next time.